everybody, and welcome to the Everything Voiceover Podcast. My name is Justin D. Torres. The Everything Voiceover Podcast is sponsored by The Voice Realm, where only professional voice actors are listed. Hey everybody, and in this episode of the Everything Voiceover Podcast, we are interviewing Naomi Mercer, a great voiceover actress and teacher that I met at the Voices.com Level Up conference in San Francisco. A quick heads up, this was through Google Hangouts, so the recording's a little bit distorted towards the end, but I hope you'll stick in and be able to listen to it all the way through because there's some really great stuff, and my apologies for the quality of the recording, but she was in Seattle and I'm in New York. So, without further ado, here's the podcast. Welcome to the Everything Voiceover Podcast. My name is Justin D. Torres. I'm here with Naomi Mercer. Thank you for coming on.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We met at the Voices.com Level Up conference, and I took your class because it was right before mine. And you went specifically into like workflow type stuff. And I was hoping to pick your brain about a couple of things when it comes to that. But could you give us like a little intro of like how you got to where you were and whatnot?
Yeah. Well, I moved to Los Angeles in 2002 to just become an actor. And then, you get like this whole team together. It's all these agents that they tell you need. You need a voiceover agent, of course, but then you also need your commercial agent, your theatrical agent, and a manager, and this and that. So then I worked hard to get a voiceover agent into that little pocket of mine and realized that was what I liked the most, and that was what I was starting to have the most success with. And it was still a very bumpy road. I feel like it was kind of right at the time that online work was becoming a thing, and it was right after the SAG strike and so many other things where the work was becoming less and less with the big agencies. But it was also right at the time that home studios came around, and I have a background as a singer, and I have recording equipment up in my house and have my whole adult life. So I just kind of was like, you get to Los Angeles and you do so much prepping to put your whole team together, and then you do spend a lot of time waiting around for the phone to ring, and that's just not my style. I always like to be doing something that's proactive towards my goals. And I'm looking at this recording equipment like, man, what if I could just be doing auditions out here? I mean, this must sound like such an old story because this has been the way it's been for so long now, but I was there right at the crux. And so I learned how to record and edit my own auditions. I took a voiceover class, and then after a bunch of beating the pavement and getting an agent, but still not getting that many auditions, and when you get them, oh my gosh, that is the highest echelon. Oh wow, I have a commercial for a Home Depot campaign. Well, yeah, but 1,400 other people submitted for that, and half of them have been doing this for 20 years and know the person that wrote this spot. So because of that, I was still kind of discouraged. And then I discovered like online work and pay-to-play websites, which have been such a controversial topic ever since they started. They disrupted our industry just the exact same way that things going online has disrupted so many other industries. I tell you what, though, the online work is exactly what turned my line of work into a sustainable career. It filled up my schedule with ongoing clients, and before I knew it, it just gave me the confidence to be able to say, yeah, I'm a voiceover actor, because that's what I'm doing all day, every day. So I'm not even lying. And then when I go into a big time audition with my big agent, I'm way more confident. I have no desperation in my voice because desperation stinks and people can smell it from a mile away. And it's gone because you're working all of the time with the client list that you build from your online work. So
I always feel like it's interesting how once the home studio thing started, that it was actually a playing field where you can actually figure out whether you're good or not, because you could do voiceover auditions forever with your agent and you're not necessarily sure if you have the chops or not. And then like I've done hundreds of jobs with non-union stuff, and I've done a couple of jobs that are really big union stuff, but I would have never known that. I mean, the only place to practice and to get good is to actually do actual work. I mean, the auditions help, but doing work helps.
That's right. So also, you're not in such a place of need that it makes the whole entire field less fun, where you're just literally begging for each of these really big jobs, because if one of them drops, it's true, you are all of a sudden in the money.
Yeah.
That's great, but if you rely on that, you could go years, and it is no reflection of how good or not good you are. So yeah, I was able to sustain myself and build a momentum up, and then I started to book the big jobs. And I don't know if that was just because of the energy I was bringing to the table from everything that we just said, or if it's because it really is a lottery ticket and I just, auditioned for 1,000 of them and finally my lucky number came up. There's no way to tell, but if you keep pushing, and if you diversify your income and look at things from the perspective of, like, I am running a small business. I'm not just the talent. I'm the talent that just sits back and no. I walk into the studio and everyone caters to me and craft services. But just like, no. I am trying to run a business here, and this is my product. Well, businesses diversify their income. They have clients of all different shapes and sizes. They have projects of all different shapes and sizes. And I think once I looked at it from that perspective, then all of a sudden I had a career.
And you started now when I went to the class portion of it, you said that you actually built your own studio, which is, I mean, I've seen a lot of studios being built. I've seen Studio Brick studios and stuff, but you made this thing from the ground up, right?
The booth, yes, my isolation booth. Yeah. I have the videos up on my blog on my website, which is just my personal website, naomimercer.com, showing like a time lapse of how I built the whole thing with my mom in a garage. And I bought a pattern called from the company Dawbox, but there's a few of them. There's a few different places you can buy them from. But you're right. My place where I live is like browns and brick walls and, natural sort of Edison rustic colors. And so I thought if I just had a gray and black booth up in here, and then I thought, why not make it match my life? I mean, yeah. And so now when I look at it, I'm so proud of how pro it turned out. It was very hard work, but man, if I ever move again, I'll have functioning sound right away. And that's always the pit when you move, because you have to break down your studio, and then you always get a job offer like the minute all the foam is gone and everything is empty.
Then you got to go under a blanket or something like that as quick as possible.
Exactly. And it's still not as good as you want it to be. Or, I mean, well, you don't want to make them wait, but the only other option is you move to the next place, and then you can't just record. You have to build out the space at the next space you move to. And now I can just break this thing down and set it back up where I go, and I'm set for life. So I'm very happy that I got that done. But it was hard work, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I feel like voiceover artists have to be a million different things. We all probably didn't expect that we would be doing engineering work and doing audio work when we first wanted to start acting, that we would be doing this.
I'm sure that, well, I know that's true. I know I didn't, but at the same time, it's all gotten so much easier that we can look at it from the point of view that it's kind of a bummer, but it's also just, it's so much more accessible for everyone, and it's not that hard. It's really just a simple, that's one of the things that makes voiceover actors so intimidated to jumping into this field, like especially the ones that come from a theater background or just a background as an actor in general. They don't like the idea of the whole technical side and how intimidating it sounds, but really, it's like driving a car. I mean, it's just a bunch of steps that you have to memorize, and then once it's done, it's done. I don't think about driving a car, but think of how complicated it actually is. There's levers, you're steering, and you're pressing pedals. Like you're using all of your limbs at once. I mean, hey, there's troubleshooting, as we were just discussing. But at the same time, it's kind of all just part of it now. And I try not to look at it like a big bummer anymore.
Oh yeah. At everything voiceover, the we try and go into other aspects of the art, because we don't really talk so much about the acting portion. What I always wanted to ask people what their process is when it comes to, you've got yourself 30 auditions on the list. Most of us have gone on to cruise control nowadays, but I feel like when you first started out, you had some kind of process, whether it was like, like taking a couple of breaths, or maybe reading it thoroughly, or reading the scripts thoroughly, or just maybe
Yeah.
figuring out voices. Do you have any like good strategies or things that you used to do when you first started out that kind of hooked you into voiceover and made it a little bit easier when you see 30 auditions on the plate?
Well, first of all, especially when it's 30 auditions on the plate that's from any kind of online work,
Yeah.
the scripts are not always all that, and there's lots of run-on sentences. So this is sort of from a technical side of it's a technical side of our technique, and that is, I have to make sure that my lungs have as big of a lung capacity as possible, and that makes it way easier to sustain the sentence without having to take a breath, right? And so I will like do probably 5 really deep breaths and big exhales, and that will stretch my lungs out. And oh my God, I learned this from swimming, where I would be able to, so I would swim under the water from one side of the pool to the other, and then I would do that exercise, and I'd be able to make it all the way to the other side. But otherwise, I'd only be able to get about a third of the way across. So I decided to apply it to this, and it helps me so much all the time. So that's a big one. And then as far as actual script reading, what came together as my self-directing process, because we're no longer in an audition with an engineer at our agent's office, and they're directing us and giving us a bunch of tips and options of where to go. But when I'm self-directing, I will read it the whole way through and just read it according to all of the specs. And then I will read another take where I'll, really take a risk and really go out on a limb with something. And then I will sit down and edit it and take any mistakes out. And then when I'm doing that, it's like the script really sinks into me. And then, so I'm sorry that this doesn't sound like it's over in 30 seconds, but this is what my process became, where then I would get up and I would deliver a take, knowing exactly what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it, and then that would be the keeper. Sometimes, the first read is broadcast quality and bye-bye, but I found that the most common process for me to find the best results, where I'm not just like quantity, not quality,
Totally.
I have to turn in good work. I can't stand having my name slapped on something that I think is just average, so that I could reach my 30 auditions a day quota. So yeah, I will sit down and edit my cold reads, and then it'll do this osmosis thing and really sink into my skin, and then I'll be like, ooh, I got an idea, now I know how I want to say it. I'll get up, get back in front of the mic and record it, and then that's the one that I send off.
One of my old coaches, Dorian Elliott, she had a great thing that I would do specifically for the walk-in auditions, because those were infinitely more important than the smaller auditions here. But she would say that you would read it. I wanted to say read the whole script 10 times or something, as quickly as possible, in as few breaths as you can. So you're just like blathering through it with no inflection whatsoever. And then before you know it, you have it almost memorized, and then you can just have fun with it. I always secretly, whenever I mess up and I don't record either a full job once or twice, and I didn't hit the record button, I kind of feel better, because I know the next 2 recordings are going to be that much better for performance.
Totally. Yep, it's so true. I know. Sometimes I always wonder why I even record the first one. But like I said, I actually just booked a job with a credit union out here in this region, and it was my first take. I was one take Willabelle that day.
Oh man. Yeah. And then you have that other thing where you start doing a job and they keep on wanting more of the audition, and you just can't get the audition. You can't get the audition tone back.
Yeah, that happened to me with a video game. I feel like that's I don't know. I don't like that kind of direction personally. That means, hey, sometimes that's what you get, and that's what the job is. So I guess we're going to try to roll with the punches, but yeah.
Totally. That's the first half of the Everything Voiceover podcast interview with Naomi Mercer. At that point, unfortunately, the Google Hangout started warbling the audio, and unfortunately, the rest of the audio is still similar to that fashion. But there's a lot of great information coming up. She's going to talk about her workflow class coming up, which is amazing, which I'll probably end up taking a couple classes of. And we also wanted to take this chance to thank our sponsors. The Everything Voiceover podcast is brought to you by The Voice Realm, where only professional voice actors are listed. Let's go ahead and get back to the interview where Naomi talks about her class that's available to everyone out there right now and a little bit of advice for all the new kids out there. Let's get back to it. Yeah. Let's talk about your class. I've seen it. I've seen your website, and I saw it, and I think that we probably got like a piece of it.
I practically forgot to talk about it at Level Up. I was so into my little speech. So yes, it's called the Workflow of VO, and it covers exactly that, like what your daily workflow is. This class is, well, first of all, it's not about technique. I feel like there's a ton of great technique classes out there, whether it's just voiceover technique or microphone technique or, dialects. That part of the field is pretty well covered. But I talk about just the business side of it. So how to set up your home studio and demos, and then also where to find the work, and then how to strategically, submit for the jobs. How to execute the job. Like once you get the job, there's a lot of different ways to actually do a job for a client. And then down to, maintaining your business and collecting the money at the end. So it's like an online class where when you sign up for it, the first lesson for the first week drops, and then you can, watch it on your own time. And then the second lesson will come to you the following week. So it just sort of trickles out for 6 weeks. And it's
that's great.
Course. Yeah. Yeah, and there's downloads and handouts, and I'm reachable throughout the whole thing so that anyone can feel hopefully like it's similar to taking a live class. I want it to be a personal feeling rather than someone feeling like they're being shuffled through a machine. So I worked pretty hard on it, and it is well, what I will say is that it was a project that I made just because people kept asking me, all of this information, and then I shelved it for a little while because I was working on another project, and then I came across it on a hard drive, and I was like, this is good stuff. I would want to know this if I was starting out in voiceover, and I feel like it's silly to just have this information sitting on a hard drive. So that's how I feel about the class. If I was just starting out in voiceover, it sure would be nice to know a lot of this stuff rather than fumbling around for a bit like I did and a lot of people I know did.
So what kind of a person, what kind of student are you looking for this? Is it a person who has little to no voiceover experience, or they have their voiceover setup ready? Because I feel like you've got a lot of information that me as an experienced voiceover actor could definitely help with, because workflow was never anything that I cared about until just recently. So. Well,
yes. However, okay, so the class as a whole is for someone who has taken some technique courses and or some coaching. So they, have all these new skills, but then now it's time to get started. And where would they begin? So it is everything from putting that home studio together. Now, a professional like you, I have like sort of an a la carte setting. For you, it would be more appropriate to join in, say, around probably around where to find the work of all the different places, even though I know you get work in a lot of the same places that I do. So maybe probably like my auditioning techniques and audition strategies and audition prioritizing. And then from there on out to the rest of the class. I have some bonus lessons at the end, too, that are things like, like I said, I don't really teach technique, but there's a couple of things in there, like that breath exercise, where I didn't get it from my voiceover technique classes. I got it from swimming. So I throw in some bonus exercises that are things that I know you can't get anywhere else, and so I put those up in there. But
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say the second half of the course, which it's an available option, would be for someone that's a little more seasoned. They're working a bit more like yourself. My website is at thebusinessofvoiceover.com. The class is called The Workflow of VO. Gotcha. But the Business of Voiceover is, I've got it as a Facebook page, and then that website, thebusinessofvoiceover.com. On Facebook, it's The Biz of VO. It's B-I-Z. But all of that just guides you right back to the webpage, thebusinessofvoiceover.com. Yeah.
All right. So what are you up to nowadays? How's the work been? I know we're all so busy. I mean, when we met down in San Francisco, you actually had to use the setup I had to get a job done. I think that's probably one of the cooler things. You should have probably pushed that out to people, that you actually had to do work while you were there.
That's right. That was so annoying. I mean, no, that was fun, and I'm so happy that you were able to help me, and we were scrappy and could make that work. I have had some really good runs with some long-term clients lately, and one of them, this is a great lesson. You never know what a client could turn into. This guy hired me, and he wanted me to sing some song. He wanted me to sing Happy Birthday. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, to you? I mean, whose name do I choose? And he was like, well, you see, I run this company for auto reminders for phone calls. So like a doctor's office that they give you a reminder call that you have an appointment tomorrow. And since we have all of their clients' information and they have all of their clients' birthdays, why don't we have an automatic phone call go out that says, this is a call from such and such a dentist office. We're calling to sing happy birthday, and then sing them happy birthday. And I was like, well, do you want me to sing it 4 million times for everyone's name in the world? And he was like, no, I would like for you to write a generic version of happy birthday. So now I'm like, oh man, this sounds ridiculous. And I'm not taking it seriously at all. And so then this guy just keeps coming back around, because I don't want to say I'm blowing him off, but I have other clients that it's much more serious work, and we're in the middle of it and we're doing it. And he's like, hello, I'm interested in hiring you to sing happy birthday for people. I'm kind of like, all right, I'll see if you circle back around. So yeah, he circles back around. We do a conference call, and I said, all right, I'll tell you what. And I threw out a price that I figured he would be like, whoa. This was just a personal thing. But no, he was very into the price. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see about this. And so then I made 5 generic versions. I went all in. I was like, well, on the part where it's supposed to be your name, it's like, happy birthday, dear Justin. So instead I was like, happy birthday. Oh, and I was laughing at myself. And once again, you got to take a moment and be grateful. They're like, man, our job is so cool.
Yeah.
So I turned it in. They loved it. They paid me that same day. And then they said, hey, by the way, we do hire voiceover actors to do the whole auto remind process. We figured you were kind of bigger than this. I was like, gosh, no, I am not too proud to take any job. And so because of that, it is just, phone system files, and it's just a few files a day that they send me, and then I send them back. And it has been the most regular work and regular gig and sustainable pay, and I am so grateful for them. And I thank goodness I didn't get rude or anything. In my mind, I was blowing them off, but I was always kind to them to their face. But it's funny. So I think that was another job that I needed to record something for. So them and Sirius XM, I'm the voice of the EDM station on their channel 51. It's called BPM.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm actually going to meet them when I'm in New York next week. And nice. And Auto Remind people. They're all based out of New York. So, it's the same thing, 24-hour turnaround time. It doesn't matter if I'm traveling, but that's the beauty of it, I recorded files for them in the Philippines. I've recorded files for them all over this world, and it's enabled me to keep traveling because I can pay for it with these kinds of jobs. So yeah, there's that, and then there's a lot of opportunities right now that are brewing that I want to talk about, but I shouldn't. So I'm gonna
Totally.
hold out.
Well, do you have any? Most of the everything voiceover, audience is mostly newer people because because like the majority of the basic understanding is of voiceover. A lot of information is out there, but it's also like 5-10 years old. I mean, I've listened to podcasts that I didn't realize how old they were until 3 episodes in, and I'm like, oh, this is not even useful whatsoever. So, do you have any words of advice for new people out there on if they're just trying to get in or they're just dipping their feet in? Either words of advice or maybe.
Sure. I would say definitely you got to take a technique class of some sort. Whether it's, I mean, in your region, you can find something wherever you're at. If you can find something online and hopefully have it be like maybe private Skype coaching, something where it's more than just reading through a course. But if it's not an option, I would still push forward. Don't let anything hold you back. So I think you should take coaching and technique classes, but if you can't, I don't think that means that you're not allowed to try. Second, if you're just getting started, I think my class is a great place to start because it really lays it all out of how it really is. And a lot of people sort of dance around in this fantasy world of how voiceover used to be, and how it really is what gets you income and moves it forward and turns this actually into a job instead of a hobby. And so the last thing that I will say is audition as much as humanly possible while you're getting started. Don't be afraid to throw your life a little out of balance for a moment. And put all the balance in the voiceover stuff. Learn to get good at auditioning because that's what gets you good at the jobs later. And things do pop. Press on. Things do happen. And also, hey, if you're just getting started and you're getting discouraged, hopefully this will make you feel better in that all clients of every big and small, they come to an end. And so even later down the road, the most seasoned voiceover actors have to get back to the drawing board and do a bunch of auditioning themselves. Maybe the day that you're auditioning, they're all tied up in jobs. And so don't be intimidated by your competition. You never know who is in the talent pool that you're submitting for. So I say don't let that hold you back. But if it comes to the point where you're like, man, how many auditions am I going to turn in before I get some results? That is just the nature of the game. And you've got to just shift your perspective and look at getting good at auditions. And if this is really what you're passionate about and you really think you've got something here, I'm telling you, it comes back around. This stuff is about building relationships eventually. Once those relationships are there with some of those clients, all of it just sort of snowballs and builds some momentum, and then it all just kind of pushes you forward. So, yeah. Sorry, that was a very long answer.
No, that was really helpful, and thank you very much. Just because
my pleasure.
I've interviewed a couple of people, and there's this tendency to be like, don't do it if you expect money. This like. Yours is probably the most positive outlook of people who are just starting out. Everyone else is like, don't do it. You don't.
I know I didn't want to hear that when I was starting. So yeah. I'm sure people listening right now wouldn't want to hear it either.
Yeah, especially when you're just starting out. I mean, it's a process. I just try and tell people to be patient with yourselves and know that it's a process. But yeah, this has been really hugely helpful. I mean, here we are on a Google Hangout because I screwed up and I couldn't figure out how to get Skype into the things. I'm technically an idiot, even though I know a lot about voiceover. But everyone out there, go ahead and head to thebusinessofvoiceover.com. Is that right?
Yep, you got it.
And then look for the workflow of VO, which I'll do myself because there's so many things that popped in my head after the voices.com, the Level Up conference. I went out and I bought a bunch of little peripherals to try and make the streamline my workflow a little bit better. There was a lot of interesting ideas, and I'm sure that you had a bunch of them too that were really helpful. So yeah. I expect people, please go to thebusinessofvoiceover.com. Thank you so much for coming on, Naomi. It's really a pleasure, as always.
Oh, you're welcome, Justin. Thank you for having me.
And that was the Everything Voiceover podcast interview with Naomi Mercer, episode 11. Thanks so much for everyone listening. Once again, if you want to check out her amazing class, go to thebusinessofvoiceover.com and check out the Workflow of VO class. We'd also like to thank The Voice Realm. The Everything Voiceover podcast is sponsored by The Voice Realm, where only professional voice actors are listed. Thanks, everyone, for listening in. Feel free to subscribe to us on iTunes or SoundCloud or TuneIn, and follow us on Twitter at EverythingV, or come and check out our Facebook page and give it a like. A huge thank you to Naomi Mercer for coming on, and thank you to you for listening. We'll see you next week. Take care.